What's going on, motherfuckers? Welcome to the Crocs and Hot Pockets podcast. My name is Naackers, and today is Sunday, June 20th, 2021, and this is episode number 156. Returning to the show, we have the most coolest dude that I've ever had on this podcast, and his name is the Wizard of OBS. What's going on, man?
I don't know if I'm that cool. Come on.
You don't give yourself enough credit, man. I honestly, when I talk about how natural people are at doing podcasts or how natural people are at conversation, you are a natural conversation haver. Like, seriously.
I don't know about that.
You really are.
I'm trying.
It's really easy for me to tell because when I go back and look at the podcast length, if I have a podcast with somebody that's over 2 hours, it's really, really easy to talk to that person. So give yourself some credit.
Our last podcast was 2 hours. Are you serious?
It might have even been closer to 3. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Dude.
I know you're sitting here sweating thinking, oh my God, I hope to God it's not that long again.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be like about an hour. I was like, no, I'm just kidding. Oh, that's fine. I don't care. I'm fully prepared for like as long as we need to go.
Good.
So it's all good.
I forgot to ask you your hard cutoff time at the beginning of the show, but I figured you'd probably let me know.
No, I have plenty of time. I don't care. I could go for hours.
So the last time we had you on the show was 2017. So it has been, I think it's been just under 3 years. I don't think it's been 3 years completely. And I'm sure that a massive amount has changed since then. Have you moved since then?
No.
Okay.
Pretty sure I'm in the same spot. As far as I can tell.
You don't know if you've been teleported or not.
Yeah. I'm still in the same spot again.
Okay.
So,
well, how are you? Like, how are you doing? What's going on?
Oh, everything's great. Everything's great as far as I can tell, at least, except for the program just keeps moving faster than I'm able to keep up with sometimes. Jesus Christ.
I
will
wish
the program would just like chill out sometimes. Like, wish people would chill out. And it's like, okay, let's just let Jim do what he wants for like an entire patch, okay? And not ask him anything. It's like, okay, let's not make any pull requests. Let's not do anything. Let's just keep it chill. And then I'd be like, oh yeah. I'd be so thankful. I'd be like, yes, I can finally do what I want for my own patch. But no, it's all good. I don't care about that. It's actually let me kind of delegate stuff, but at the same time, it's a little bit overwhelming because there's like more attention to the project than ever. I think it's just because of the freaking virus and stuff. It's just like so many pull requests and so many things going on with the project and so many like sponsors. It's been nuts, dude. It's been absolutely nuts.
Has the introduction of sponsors completely changed it for you, or do you not? Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, things are. I'm able to. I have. Things are going great. It's just like we've been like for example, the Open Collective. We've just been paying out a whole bunch of developers who have been making amazing features. Anytime we see like an amazing feature, and we're really happy with it, we're like, okay, it's time to pay this person out, and it's like, and it's been amazing, and it's the sponsors have allowed me to like delegate so many things to other people and just be able to, we have so many like part-time people now, and we have one full-time guy now who's like doing work, and it's just been crazy. It's just it's been almost too much to keep up with. It's just like I'm trying to just like I'm trying to keep up with it myself, and it's just it's been crazy.
A little crazy. What aspects of the project are you okay to delegate? And then do you have something that was really, really hard for you to let go of?
Oh my God. Anything related to code is difficult to let go of. Let's be real. Anything related to code or anything related to anything that I've programmed, like if somebody's out there tinkering in the stuff that I've made, I'm like, get out of the code. But I mean, just like, but yeah, it's been pretty. It's been a good mix of good and bad. I mean, it's like,
sure.
Well, not bad, not bad. It's been bittersweet in a way, but it's mostly good, mostly good, almost entirely good. I should actually say. I shouldn't even say there's anything really bad about it.
You're
I just
allowed
miss
to
the old days.
complain.
No, no, I know.
You're allowed to say
No.
that there's negativity out there.
No,
like
no, there isn't negative. And there, trust me, there is zero negative, almost zero negativity.
Really?
Almost zero. I'm not even kidding. All of our contributors are amazing, dude. They're amazing. It's just like hard to let go of your baby, you know? And it's like hard to let go. And you want everything to be this particular way that you want it to be. And you're like, it's difficult to let go. So you just kind of have to like chill, and you have to just kind of let it be. And
Right.
it can be kind of difficult, but at the same time, it's like it's kind of a birth of a new era, you know. So it's been good. It's been I should definitely say it's been good. It has been good. It
Good.
really has been. So yeah.
I brought on a new editor, and I'm about to bring on a second editor. And even if I say, here are the timestamps, here's what I want, and these are the parts that I want you to emphasize, in my mind, I'm still like, but what if they do it wrong? Like, I told them exactly what I want. What if they still do it wrong? But there's just something you got to give up.
I know it's so hard. It's like, and I merged like these big pull requests, and there's like all these little things, and I'm like, I wouldn't have done it that way. But I mean, at the same time, it's like, it's the work that I would have had to put in to do it all myself versus the work that I would have had to that I put in just to like help fix up the stuff has been like a big difference. Like I'm spending a lot less work fixing it up myself, or not a lot less work just helping people merge stuff and reviewing code. Even though it's not like the code that I would have like preferred at times, it's like it's still like it's better in terms of like time management. I mean, much better. It's still much better. So I should definitely say it's been great.
What as far as your personal life, letting go, delegating the introduction of sponsors, when's the last time you went on vacation?
I listen, okay, I don't have anything else to do, okay? Listen. What even is a vacation? I don't even know. I mean, it's like,
when's the last time?
Do I go to Rome or something? Come on. I mean, it's like I'm not going to go anywhere.
When's the last time you went 5 days without working on anything?
I don't know. I'm always working on something, and there's always somebody emailing me. I mean, I think I did it. I think at these past 5 days have been pretty empty, just because we just had that patch, and I'm just like burnt out, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna binge watch some Netflix show or something.
Good.
I did, and I watched Dark, and that was.
Oh, my girlfriend's gonna scream in the other room. She loved that show.
Dark was pretty dark.
Yeah,
it was pretty crazy, dude. I loved it.
So, speaking to the point of the pandemic and development, how did the pandemic influence you in like a workflow way? Because I know the amount of streamers, I think, doubled. Like the amount of streamers that actually started streaming or continue to stream during that time was just absolutely massive. And the go-to streaming software is OBS. Do you feel the weight of that on your shoulders?
Listen. Yeah, I do. And people are always, my guys are always saying like, do you get it yet? And I'm like, yeah, I guess I do. But I mean, it's like, yeah, when big sponsors are coming to you and telling you that you're like 50% of your of their base, it's like, and that they're like, we have to work. We basically have no choice because you're like 50% of our base. We have to come to you. We have to ask you for help. And it's like, and I'm just like, okay. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty overwhelming. But yeah, ever since the pandemic hit, it was just like, I don't even know. It was like, it must have been like 3x the amount of people that we had using our software, especially since when the pandemic started, we put an emphasis on making the virtual camera. And I think that like like hugely spiked up our user base just because of how useful the virtual camera's been for people, just to be able to make like presentations during their Zoom meetings and stuff, because they like had no other way to do it, for the pandemic. So it's like, all of a sudden everybody's using the software, and it's like, it's not just YouTubers and it's not just Twitch streamers and then YouTubers who are recording and streaming, but now it's like the people using Zoom meetings and stuff, and it's been pretty nuts. It's the amount of users that we have per day is kind of ridiculous. Like, yeah, it can be overwhelming.
Do you have any sort of metrics that you can share as far as like amount of downloads?
We don't. We actually track very, very few metrics, just because, mostly because of because we don't really care that much, and because of like privacy, and because we're like open source, and we just care about privacy and stuff like that. So we don't really track. We know like how many people. We know like how many checks for updates and stuff like that happen, and like things like that, but we don't like know any like specific details. We might know like, those are IPs that are hitting our servers and stuff. So we like know like we have like a general idea of like who might like the general demographic or country demographic. But
okay,
yeah, it's like, but it's definitely ridiculous. It's like a ridiculous number of users. It's like a significant portion of the earth. So at this point, it's like, yeah, the pressure on me is the pressure on the software has been pretty crazy just due to that fact. And yeah, sorry.
No, I was going to ask, do you know how many like total consistent contributors that you have right now?
Contributors? No, yeah. I don't know the like total contributor. I mean, I have a general idea. It's like hundreds of contributors.
Oh my God.
It must be hundreds. Yeah. People are always making pull requests. And I just lately, I haven't been looking at the pull requests because we've been focused on like getting the 27 update out, and we got the 27 update out. Now, like for the past week or so since the update, I've been just like zoning out. I'm like, oh, I'm done. So it's like, I couldn't, I was just like, okay, I'll get to these later, but then it's like piling up, and now there's like 160 or 170 freaking merge requests, and it's just like, oh, I don't want to deal with it.
Are merge requests always fixes or new features as well?
They're pretty much everything you can think of: fixes, features, tweaks, anything that you can imagine. People have been making, just like. Just a whole bunch of nice stuff, or a lot of the time I have, it can be like personal stuff for each contributor, so the contributor might want something specific for themselves, or for their specific use case, and they're like, okay, I'm just gonna submit it and see if they'll accept it, and maybe it might benefit somebody else. But usually most of the time it primarily benefits themselves. So it's like, it can be hard. It can be hard because I don't want to like tell them no, but at the same time, it's like, sometimes it can be useful. Sometimes it can be, well, I should say oftentimes it is. They are really good. So yeah,
I'm so glad you said that, because there are so many times where I see people's reactions to like products or softwares, whether it's on like a YouTube review of a new piece of hardware that's come out, and somebody says like, oh, who would use that? When it's like, you're the case of not using it, whereas like millions of people around the world would absolutely use this. And then you've got like the opposite, where a streamer might be super geeked about a particular update, and everybody else says, what the hell is so exciting about this? I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has their little thing that they're doing with their stream or with their YouTube, and it's you try to like help everybody you can, but sometimes it just can be kind of difficult. I don't know.
Speaking of privacy, I got to get your take on this. So, do you browse TikTok at all?
I've seen streamers browse TikTok, but I haven't browsed TikTok myself.
Gotcha. Okay. So there was a TikTok that I came across the other day where somebody was sharing out a website that they had found. And the website, the purpose of the website was for you to go into Discord, export all of your data, and then upload it to this website for it to show you all these pretty graphs of like, this is the person that you messaged the most, the like these are the amount of images you sent, basically to give you a bunch of visual data or like pretty graphs based on your Discord history. And my immediate thought was privacy nightmare. Like, I would never bundle up everything that I've ever done in Discord and then just upload it to a random website. And there's all these people questioning this original poster, like, hey, is this safe? And they're like, yeah, it's open source. Like, the devs are cool. It's all good.
Yeah, I mean, you never know what they're like going to use that for. That's why it's important to have like privacy policies. I mean, I guess even, but yeah, I can only say what we do in our case, and we like track almost nothing. And I've actually been criticized for it because it's like normally with software these days, they track like the way that they fix bugs and the way that they track, like the way that they implement features is what they do is they track telemetry data, which telemetry meaning like everything that you're doing pretty much.
Right.
But I mean, it's just basically like generalized data. What applications are they using the most, or what stuff, or where are they going the most? Do they understand this feature? Like, if they're in this dialogue, are they using this particular widget in the dialogue? Do they know that this widget exists? Do they know what they're doing? Basically, it gets a good gauge of what the user is doing and whether they know how a feature works. And it basically allows like the developer to know how to make a feature better or how to make their program better. So telemetry is not like, it's definitely like a privacy concern, but at the same time, it's like for developers, it's used for figuring out what works and what doesn't.
Sure.
And it also like helps them track down bugs or issues, things like it's helped them cut down on their QA teams, so they don't have to like hire a whole bunch of people to like basically monkey like a whole bunch of monkeys to like go through and like do random things and to figure out what the monkey ends up doing. So they track telemetry data. So
right.
On one hand, it is a privacy concern, but at the same time, it's like there is like a genuine use case for that. But for us, we don't do that. Like, we don't do that at all. We've been criticized for it because we don't have like the information about the program, like what's wrong or what users are having trouble with, or what we can do better. Making that sort of judgment based upon actual data.
Sure.
So it can be kind of a challenge for us, but at the same time, I don't really mind it that much because I feel like you can get a good gauge. I feel, I hesitate to say that like I have a good feel for it, but it's like, it's not too difficult. I feel, to try to figure it out on your own or something like that. But I mean, but at the same time, I admit it is a deficit, when you can't really have the statistics that you would get from like actual telemetry data. So
when you say you're criticized, are you saying you're criticized by maybe people that you're working with that wish that you would collect more data?
No, it's more like people in the industry. I've had like friends of mine in the industry who work for big companies tell me that like not tracking is one of the biggest mistakes that I could make. Not knowing like exactly the demographic of our users, not knowing like every single detail about the users, not knowing all the statistics of what they use in the program or what system stats they might have, and it's like they point out that it's like a a detriment because, we could be doing something wrong. We could like completely not know. Like, for example, like one time somebody pointed out that 40, this was like years ago. So I don't know if the stats have changed since that, but a while, years ago, somebody pointed out to me that 40% of the users generally are on a single monitor setup. So basically not having like an overlay for games and stuff like that, so you can control the software via overlay, is a huge detriment. And while that's understandable, it's like, I don't know.
That's an insane stat.
It is an insane stat, but it's an understandable stat, don't you think? Don't you think?
No, I guess I don't.
Well, I mean, do you really expect that like more than like 60% of people would have like two or more monitors? I mean, you have to expect that most people, or at least a significant amount of people, are probably going to be operating on a single display. I mean, they're either going to be like on a laptop or they're going to be on a PC with a single display. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, most people probably aren't going to have like two displays in general.
See, I would have automatically argued that like, no, these days with gamers and streamers, I guess if we're including both laptops and desktops in that conversation, like, yes, it makes sense that most people with the laptop probably are just using the single display in the laptop. But I mean, just to see like anybody I know who's into PC gaming or gaming on a PC, or streaming, it's like almost always there is a second monitor, but it's so anecdotal that, I'm only considering the United States only, where we just throw away monitors, and to get a second monitor is so fucking easy for us.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's that, but I think it's probably even in the United States, because I think about like my nephews and nieces and my sister and everybody, and they're all on one monitor, so it's like that number makes sense. I'm not sure if it was 40% or more. I think it might have been more, but I mean, it's like,
it's more. That's even crazier to me.
Yeah. So, I mean, it really does make sense. And it's like the argument that was being pointed out to me is like, you have to be able to cater to these people who have like only one monitor, because there's such a significant amount of the user base. So it's like, what do you do in that situation? And the only real answer is if they're in a game, they have to, the only way that they control like the program is to alt tab out, which means that they have to, basically do like a context switch.
Right.
So it's like, that's why most programs like TeamSpeak, Discord, any program that you can name that's not OBS has to generally have an overlay. If you've ever wondered like why almost every single one of these programs has an overlay, it's because of that fact, because so many people are using a single monitor setup, and there's nothing that you can do about that.
Absolutely I've never thought about that.
Yeah.
And I guess because I have had multi-monitors since I was 16, I have pictures of me in high school with two CRTs right next to each other. But that's just my privileged life, I guess.
I mean, I have to be honest. I'm pretty sure that I was on like a single monitor for like the longest time. Even as like a developer, I probably was on it until like on like a single monitor until like 2010 or something.
Stop it.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Why?
I don't know, dude. I just never needed another monitor. I was never like multitasking and stuff. I didn't even make OBS at that point. So I mean, it's like, what did I have to do? I didn't have anything else to do. I was just like, I didn't really need more than that, I guess. These days I'm like multitasking like a ridiculous amount, but I mean, I don't know. I just never really thought about it, I guess.
That is, so like I can understand that to a point, because there's certain times where I'm troubleshooting an issue with a client, and I ask them, why aren't they doing it this way? Or why are you making this more difficult for yourself? And a lot of their responses are, I've never thought that I've needed anything better than what I have. Whereas to me, my brain, whenever I'm sitting at somewhere, like I always get made fun of by my coworkers and by bosses for how much I've customized my work setup with like placement and monitor mounts and the amount of monitors that I have and like mounts. Like I have a magnet phone that I can throw right at my monitor and it sticks. Like ergonomics is everything. Accessibility is everything. And then I'll have friends that come in with their 13-inch laptop and will plug in like a 4:3 aspect ratio as a secondary monitor and then type on their laptop keyboard and look over to the right all day long. I'm like, why do you do this to yourself? There's a better world out there.
I don't know, dude. I've never used like a monitor mount and stuff. I just have like 2 monitors right here that I've never used more than 2 monitors. And I've never used like a monitor mount or anything like that, monitor mounts or anything like that. It's just like everything I have is still pretty jank, I have to admit.
Next, you're going to tell me that it's OBS and not OBS.
I mean, haven't we had this discussion before?
We have.
It is OBS.
And
everybody should know. I've started calling it OBS just because everybody else calls it OBS. But I mean, of course it was OBS. It was always OBS.
So I took that clip of our original podcast and I posted it to TikTok just to let people know that they've all been saying GIF instead of GIF, and they were not happy. They're like absolutely not, I will not say OBS. I'm like, you motherfuckers! Imagine how he feels.
There's nothing you could do about it. I mean, it's just like with the GIF and GIF situation. It's like everybody has their own preferred way of pronouncing it. There's nothing that you can do about it. And eventually, as like the author, I'm starting to pronounce it the way that everybody else is pronouncing it. I'm like, oh, God damn it.
So for anybody in chat, we had the Wizard of OBS here on the podcast back in 2017. And we were talking about OBS, and I said OBS, and he goes, well, whenever we're talking about OBS, as I like to call it, and I said, who calls it OBS? And he, as the author, said, well, my username is Wizard of OBS instead of Wizard of Oz, and my mind was fucking blown. I had no idea. Been using the software since 2013, and so you've probably just completely let go of it at this point, right?
I'm totally let go at this point. I'm just like, okay, I guess it's called OBS at this point. God damn it. It's like nobody got that. It's like when I was making it, nobody understood except for like the like hardcore StarCraft people that I was calling it OBS. Very disappointing, but it's all right. It's all right. I've come to terms with it.
There was you had mentioned something a little bit earlier, and I think it was in regards to. I think I completely lost that. I think it was when we were talking about sponsors. I think the last time that we had talked, I don't think that anybody had officially backed OBS yet. So 2017, I think shortly after, you guys had the big Streamlabs backing, right? And then the original, I can't remember if Streamlabs OBS had been out at that point.
Yeah, that's kind of a weird situation. I'm not gonna. They did their own thing on their own. That wasn't us. That we didn't have any involvement in that.
Does it piss you off that they took the source code and then they got called slobs, but you still they had OBS in their name when they took it, but you still had to stick with OBS?
Well, of course we don't like the fact that, people use OBS in the name and, put any make any situation where it's like there's a confusion between OBS and a fork or something like that. It's like, who is actually OBS? And it's like, it's us. It's not these people or, things like that. So obviously we're not very comfortable with that fact, but that's all I'll say about it at the moment. But we had no involvement in that. Just to be clear, that
Gotcha.
Was not like anything. Yeah, we obviously, if it was our choice, it would be some other name just to distinguish things,
right?
Preferably.
And you don't have to comment, but I will say that over the past year, I have seen an incredible amount of people start to flock back to OBS after kind of making the switch originally because of whatever reasons, and then people starting to realize, wait, the original shit is kind of the best shit. And so it's been awesome for me to see people go back.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's the original is the actual software. I mean, that's the stuff that, the other people are taking advantage or are utilizing, utilizing the code. I say utilizing because it's like, obviously it's GPL software, so anybody can utilize our source code, makes something cool out of it if they really want to, we just want to make sure that anybody who does that is not necessarily misrepresenting, who's actually making the actual software.
Right. Have you felt like you've had to? Have you felt like you've had to clear that up more than you thought you would?
Yeah. I mean, that's can be kind of frustrating because sometimes people don't realize that it's that we'd have no involvement in when somebody else puts OBS in their software. It can be kind of difficult to say. It's like, we have nothing to do with that, and people don't realize that at first, and they hear the words OBS and they think that we're somehow involved with it when we're actually not.
Right.
And that's, it can be, it's not fun. So that can happen sometimes. But
absolutely.
At the same time, it's still technically our software, even though it's like, there's that whole confusion going on. It's like, whose is whose? It's like, you shouldn't be thinking that. I mean, the original people are always going to the obsproject.com, it's like, so if you're ever wondering, like, if we endorse somebody, we would probably say it like on our website or something like that. So just for the record,
Sure. Has anybody come by and asked to just buy the whole thing, all of it?
A couple times.
Really? Oh, that's awesome. I mean, that's got to be like a little validation, right? Even though I know you wouldn't consider it.
No, I mean, a couple times, but they usually haven't done it or haven't really offered, haven't been really very generous in their offers. So it's like, yeah,
we're only the biggest in the world, awkward. Motherfucker.
I know. It's like, it's been a little bit. Yeah, I'll just say that this hasn't been very. They have not been very generous in their offers so far. So it's like, okay.
Step it the fuck up, world! Come on.
No. I mean, it would be very difficult for me to ever sell the software anyway. Because the thing about my and I argue about this with my family a lot. My siblings and my dad, and it's like, everybody's like, why don't you just sell it? Or why don't you just why don't you sell copies for like $1 a piece? If you only sold it for $1 a piece, you'd be a millionaire. And it's like, or just sell it off to somebody, or like, one of my family members was like, just sell it off, and I'm just like, oh my God. And it's just like, that's not what I want to do. I mean, I'm just a single dude, and I'm happy enough with what I have to where you would have to really, really give me something that's worth it. And when I say worth it, I mean, it's like the people that I have met, the contributors and the users, and pretty much everybody that I've been involved with have been so amazing to me and have been so great that it would take a huge amount for me to like just like sell off the software or something. And so I just can't do that to people.
Right.
I just can't, I've known so many people and it's changed so many lives that it's just like, I have to keep the software real to what what I'm trying to do. And selling it off means like that whoever would buy it obviously wants to utilize the user base, right?
Right, absolutely. Before
and
anything
it's not just
else.
the user base either. And it's also the thing about OBS is that it's not just the user base. It's also like the viewers that you would have influence over too. And it's like it's a ridiculous amount of people, and they would want to be able to, monetize that somehow. So it's like it's something that is very difficult for me to do, because you're basically selling out. I shouldn't say this, but it feels like you're sort of selling out your users and your contributors. And it's that I just don't really want to do that. And I have argued with my family over that a couple of times, just because it's like you could make so much money, like if you like put advertisements in the this is just like a dumb example, but I mean, it's like somebody told me once, it's like if you put advertisements in the program, you would make $100,000 a month, right?
Right.
So I was like, yeah, I'm comfortable where I am, and I don't, it's like that's a lot of money, but and they use the argument, it's like, you would be able to pay, your people money. You would be able to pay your people so much more money if you do that. And it's like, it's such a hard position, because you're basically selling out your users so you can do that. It's just such a difficult and thing that it's just something that I don't ever feel really comfortable with. I don't think I could ever feel comfortable with. And I'm really thankful that we chose our license,
right.
the GPL license, because no matter what, it's like if that ever does happen, it's like somebody can just fork it the moment that happens, and it's like they can make a new one where they don't have, where users aren't being taken advantage of. It's like the cycle can always continue in favor of the users, and that's when. Are you serious? Sorry,
that's all good.
And yeah, so it's like. Yeah, I could never do that personally, and it's something
everybody loves that about you. Like the fact that to hear you say that is like, this is why people believe in. This is why you have so many contributors. This is why people love to use the software, is because we have somebody like you at the front leading it, because it's like it's one of the last things that hasn't been tainted by the fucking industry. Like I can just imagine, like, if somebody were to buy OBS and then just be like, okay, well, every let's say hour, if you're using OBS, there's going to be a little overlay that you can't turn off that just says powered by fucking Azure, and it's just going to go there and it's going to go away. I could just imagine what, like, the power that is involved with that.
I mean, I doubt that would be like an overlay that you can control or something. That would be, because I mean, it would always be GPL. So no matter what, even if like somebody bought it out, you could still like always compile it yourself, because it's not possible to really get rid of GPL once you have once something is GPL, which is part of the reason why it makes it so difficult to make money off of and to sell. But I mean, it's like the way that they usually would do it is just like restrict the binaries and add like stores and stuff to your software, or add like alternate, just you would basically try to make money around it, if that makes sense. You would try to utilize the user base or try to utilize the viewer base, or things like that. And that's just basically how it would work. But it's just something that I guess the program is really lucky that it was me who ended up being, the author. But it's at the same time, it's just like, I don't know. It's a lot of pressure.
I can't even imagine the pressure that you're under, the people that come knocking, being at the helm of something that is so successful. I mean, just those conversations with family members, like those can eat away at you in your personal life. It's something that is so unrelated to your actual project, but but it's just a byproduct of what you do. And I can't understand what it's like to have to go through that, because everyone around you is just like, the money.
Yeah, it's constantly about the money. It can be pretty overwhelming at times. I don't really. I'm generally pretty happy. I do wish that I could. At times, I do wish that I could have like a way to like pay every single person and have like a full-time staff. Like big programs. But at the same time, it's like it's just so. The program is just like so pure on its own. When everybody is able to like act on their own and to just genuinely make the program better just because they want to, not because they're being paid or anything like that. But at the same time, it's like when you don't have full-time people, it can be kind of difficult to motivate people to work on things that you want them to work on. So it's like there's catch-22s to it,
sure.
I guess. So
do you have any corporate resemblance as far as like team meetings or like gatherings or plans? Do you have kind of any of that in place, or is it all just kind of off the cuff?
It's we have. It's good to be organized, and it's good to have like schedules. So we have schedules. We have schedules and we have meetings, and we regularly, the very, very core team members meet up, every week. We talk every week, just to see what everybody's up to and to see what we need to do, and just to make sure that everybody's on the same page and that we're all focused, relatively focused, and just trying to make sure that we get our goals accomplished and things like that. So we do generally keep as organized as we can, but at the same time, most people are either part-time or volunteering. So it's like, it can be fairly disorganized to some extent. Everybody's pretty much kind of autonomous. It's kind of weird with open source projects, especially the general volunteers. The general volunteers, you don't control over, because they're being paid is all dependent on people generally aren't doing things because they want to be paid. Usually they'll be paid or they'll be compensated if depending on how big the feature is or something like that. So it's like everybody's basically working almost autonomously. It's very strange.
That is insane. Like that concept to have one of the biggest softwares in the fucking world, especially right now with everybody working remote and quarantine and everything, for it to run in that fashion is awesome. And it is also insane at the same time. You got to be so proud of that. You got to fucking just love that.
I mean, I do. And I love my contributors so much. And we've been trying to compensate people, I was like, when, somebody's making like amazing features that, that we're proud of, we try to throw back at them occasionally. And it's just like, it's been great. It's been so great. Just all the people who just love the program. And there are even some people who are like, won't even take money if we like, are like, hey, you've been doing such great work, please let us pay you. And they're like, nope. And it's like, what the heck are you doing? This isn't normal. You need to just shut up and take the money.
Do work, get paid.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like some people, it can be weird at times. It can be very weird, but it can be kind of a blessing and a curse. But I love everybody so much, and I'm very grateful for everybody so much. You have no idea.
You guys have ramped up feature sets. Like the release, what you guys have released in the past year has just been absolutely insane. And in regards to people coming forth with ideas, can you put can you put your finger on a specific idea or a feature that's come out that somebody has contributed where you're just like, holy shit, this is awesome? Is there something that's kind of like blown your mind in the past year?
Yeah, really. I mean, like version 27 had so many features, and we had Vulkan capture made by RC Drone. RC Drone has been like one of the biggest contributors, and then there's like
Undo?
Undo Redo, which was made by Programmatic, and that was an amazing feature. And it had a lot of issues at first, though. It definitely had a lot of issues, and I had to assist. It's okay because he's like, this particular developer is young. He's very, very young, and but he's so good at the same time. He has such potential. But I was like, okay, my guys were like, okay, this is a feature that everybody has been requesting forever, and it's like, we have to merge it. We just have to, it's been in the works for like months, countless months. So it was like, we have to merge this. We have to make it work somehow or another. So I was like, okay, we'll merge it and we'll fix up things as we go and as we test. So, I merged it, and there were a lot of issues at first, but we eventually got through them together, and it was wonderful. All things considered, and he really, in retrospect, did a great job because he basically followed the RFC, because we have this process where we have these requests for comments. We have this section of our repository. We have this separate repository where we have requests for comments, which are basically like feature proposals, where we request comments on feature proposals. We propose like how we would implement this feature, and it's like, and so I remember that I specified exactly like how I wanted it to be on that RFC. And I was like, okay, I want it to be like this, like this, like this. And he followed it almost all to the T. He understood what I was saying, so he followed it. And yeah, he made a great pull request, all things considered, especially considering his age and his like experience level. And we merged it. I was like, okay, I'm just going to merge this and we'll fix it up as we go, because I knew that there were issues with it, but I was like, but it was difficult for me to like go through everything at the time. So I was like, okay, we'll merge this and we'll test it and we'll figure out what's wrong with it as we go. And so we did, and there were a lot of things. There were a lot of things wrong with it, but at the same time, because he followed my specifications, it made it a lot easier to fix those things as we went. So, yeah.
What was the biggest hurdle to get over implementing something like that? Because on the surface, to somebody who doesn't understand programming or development, it's just like, well, just add it. I don't know. Why can't you just add it? What, like, fundamentally, what was like the biggest hurdle to get over to make that work?
It was difficult because it's like he had like a bare specification of like how it worked, and he encountered problems that he didn't quite know how to fix at the time, and so he tried these workarounds that didn't work very well, and basically. I think the problem is that it's very difficult. Like if you get, it was a multi-thousand line feature submission. So it was like thousands of lines of code, right? So I was like, it was really difficult. I have trouble reviewing that many lines of code. So my idea was like, okay, we'll merge it and then we'll figure out, everything that's going. This is probably not the best way to review things, but I mean, it's like, okay, we'll merge it first. So I was like, because I tested it and I just went over everything at the time, and I was like, okay, I'm going to test it, see how it works. And at the time I tested it and it was like, okay, this works. This really works. And you've covered, I went over with him and I was like, okay, this is having a problem and this is having a problem. And, he fixed it up. And, eventually after that, I merged it. And so we merged it, but then we found so many more niche cases that weren't working. And I found like there were these particular bugs, like, or not really bugs, but a particular design that I didn't spot in my initial review, where he was like keeping a reference on sources. This is probably like programmer talk, but I mean, he was keeping a reference on sources. So basically sources would still exist even after you deleted them, just because they were being like held in like the undo redo buffer.
Okay.
So there's like an undo redo buffer. And so basically his method of, at the time, if you deleted a source, was he would store the old source. But the problem is that if you store the old source, that it kind of it messes with things if you need to like switch scene collections or anything like that. So it would like linger, and it would like linger into the next scene collection or something like that. Or for example, if you needed to create a new source and you wanted it to be the name of a source you just deleted, you wouldn't be able to do that because that old source technically still existed in the buffer.
Oh.
So it's like the source is still there, but it's like just kind of lingering out there. Lingering out there in the void. Yeah. So I had to, we had to basically back up all the source information. We had to go back and remove that code to where he was storing the references, and I had to make it so it was like we had to store all the information of the source. So I had to go back and like redo it because that was like something I missed in my initial review because
2,000 lines of code.
But the problem, I think the fundamental problem is that it's just so incredibly difficult to review code, and it's like it makes it worse if you're like not good at paying attention to details, which I'm not, unless it's like my own stuff. If it's like, if I'm working on something myself and I'm like, I can always like get everything down the way I want, and it's like, I always know like the potential outcomes, I'm always like 10 steps ahead, I feel like, whenever I'm making my stuff myself, just because I've been programming for like 30 years or so. So it's like, but when it's like somebody else who's new and you're reviewing countless thousands of lines of code, it's like it's very easy to miss these things, and that was something critical that I missed. And it's like, it's not really his fault, it's more like my fault that I didn't see it in the review, and it was difficult to deal with at the time because I basically had to rewrite that section of code, and it's like, it can be difficult because you want to explain to them like how to do it right. But at the same time, the best way to explain it to them is just to like write it yourself and just say, hey, this is what I did. This is how you probably should have done it. So I'm just going to make this fix for you. Right. So it was like, it's a catch-20. It's another one of those catch-22s where you're trying to, it was difficult because you don't want to tell somebody that that they did things wrong either.
Right.
And it was just tough. It was a tough situation. I really wanted, but in the end, he completely understood, and he was understanding and empathetic or sympathetic, and it worked out great. So
learning experience for him.
It was a learning experience for both of us. I mean, constantly, it's like I'm constantly like having to realize that it's just so difficult to like pay attention to tiny little details. You have to go through every single line of code, and you have to like analyze and think about like every single line. And when there's like countless thousands, it's just so much.
I think that's one of the most fascinating and debilitating things about code. Like whenever I hear people talking about writing code, it's like, yeah, I took this sloppy written 100 lines of code and I wrote it better at like 10 or 15. The fact that code can be written different ways to do the same thing, and they're sloppy and clean or like rugged and efficient. That sucks. Like,
It does
how
suck.
can you fucking deal with that all the time?
You do deal with that all the time. It's just the nature of like human beings, I guess. You know, it's just the nature of like engineering. You can engineer something to be like as simple and efficient as possible. You know, sometimes it's impossible to be both simple and efficient. Sometimes you have to choose between one or the other. You know, it's like sometimes the only way to be efficient is to be complex, and sometimes the only way to be simple is to be non-efficient. You know, and it's just like how it can be a difficult situation because like as an engineer, you want to make everything both simple and efficient at the same time. So it's like there's this trade-off, and you have to decide like how much of the scale you're willing to put to. It's like simple versus complexity, and it can be pretty difficult. It can be pretty difficult.
Do you find that you can see a personality type in somebody's code? Like, are there
Yes.
really?
Yes.
Okay.
100%. 100%. Immediately.
Can you expand on that a little?
It's difficult to expand on. It's just like the way that a person codes, you know, it's like anything from like variable names to like the function style. How much code are they putting in a function versus how much are they splitting their functions? You know, it's just like there are so many subtle details that people don't realize that can go into code that you don't really realize until you've had like decades worth of experience. I'm not even joking. Even in like the most simple language like C, where it's like there's only like a limited number of operators and, you know, a very, very limited standard library. And it's like, you know, you can detect instantly that just like their coding style and, you know, like their experience just by looking at their code.
Have you ever looked at somebody's code and gone, oh, I hate this person? Like, we're not going to get along whatsoever.
I mean, I'm not going to.
That's a yes.
It can happen. Yes. Okay. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Unfortunately, it can happen sometimes. And I think that's one of the fundamental, I have to admit, that's probably one of the fundamental disagreements between the founders of C and C, maybe Strausstrup and Dennis Ritchie and Kernighan. So yeah, you could. I mean, those people are like completely different people. So it's like, yeah, you can even detect it. Like whenever Strausstrup is talking about like Dennis, it's like somebody asked him one time, and he was like, "I don't know. You'd have to ask Dennis." You know, it's like, oh.
Oh, is that how it is?
Dennis was like one of the inventors of C. So, you know, and Strausstrup is the inventor of C++. And, you know, he was like a little, you could sort of detect like the bitterness in his voice. I was like, I don't know. You'd have to ask Dennis. You know, it kind of like, okay. Yeah, you can sort of detect it there. And it's like, yes, absolutely. There are different types of styles and different types of people who like who have their own different philosophies. And, you know, you can detect it like the moment you view their code every single time, I feel.
Thank you for answering that, because that's something I've always kind of wondered, because I feel like from the outside, coding is both like, it's like a conversation and a dance at the same time. It's like you have to do salsa, but also translate the other person's Spanish to English. And I've always wondered, like, I wonder if people can tell like what type of person wrote this, like, or is there like a certain type of like biker badass bitch type of like a programmer, and then like the super neat kept preppy coder, and like if there's little like classes in between the two.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Okay.
100%. 100%. Awesome. Yeah. It's funny.
in regards to, like we've been talking about, there's been so many features that have released with OBS over the past year. I think I want to blow smoke up your butt a little bit to see so many creators jump on the opportunity to talk about OBS features. Like they're making TikToks and YouTube videos and streams, just going over all of the things that OBS has released. Is that more of a compliment or pressure to release more?
Well, I mean, it's not really a pressure to release more. I mean, the reason why we make releases is usually because we're missing something important, or there's some, generally there's like some feature, that people are generally wanting. Like, for example, like you were saying, like there's different types of content creators, they each have their own different type of thing that they need, situation that they need to solve, and sometimes, you just you have to try to, uh, you try to implement all the features that you can to, help all those people, so yeah. And another one of the reasons why we implement, new versions is just because, technology changes over time. Like, for example, we just implemented the new display capture for, that fixes that whole laptop situation, because we had a situation where, like, if you started OBS on a laptop, you couldn't use display capture properly because display capture would display a black screen, because the way that this laptops work is that there's two adapters. And so OBS would run on the performance adapter. There's two adapters. There's one adapter for, power saving, which runs the desktop. Okay. So, it rendering the desktop requires very little, power. So, it basically requires almost nothing. So they use, a power saving adapter, which is usually like an Intel, which is part of the Intel, chip or something like that. So they use the chip to render the desktop, and then they'll only use the performance adapter, which drains a lot more power whenever, you're playing a game. So it's like, okay, so they designed it so whenever you're playing a game is the only point when you're draining a lot of power, right? So it makes sense. The laptop design makes sense, but at the same time, for OBS, it made it really difficult because we had to prioritize the games, right? So it's like, if somebody's capturing a game, we need to make sure that game capture works. And the way that we have it, the way that we implement our capture methods is that, we have this method to where, if we're on the same adapter as the target, then we can capture whatever they're doing very fast and very efficiently, right? So it's like it impacts the system very little. Now, if OBS was running on like one adapter and the game was running on another, then all of a sudden what happens is that you have to transfer the data from the one adapter that the game is running on to OBS on the other adapter. So you have to transfer that data over to the other adapter. And it makes it, and because you're having to go over the system like that, it really kills the performance. I mean, significantly. So we were stuck in this situation for like the longest time to where we had to deal with that. So recently what Microsoft did was they made a very high performance method of for the adapters to communicate, between each other if you're capturing like desktop data. So they made a new capture method. And so we had to implement that capture method. And now, whenever on version 27, if you're using a laptop, you can use display capture, even though OBS is running on the performance adapter. So OBS is running on the, for example, NVIDIA adapter, while the desktop is running on the desktop rendering is running on the Intel. So now we can capture that data with very little issue because we implemented that new API. So,
do you know the main reason why Microsoft released that?
Oh well, yeah, because I mean, the reason why they're implementing these new captures is just because they're changing the way that they're rendering subsystems work. to make things more efficient, and things are just generally their technology is changing over time. So they basically have to implement new captures in order to be able to do those things, like a new type of window capture, which was they recently made, and a new type of display capture along with that. So yeah, basically they're just, as Windows itself evolves, Microsoft adds new APIs for the newer versions, because the older APIs are definitely old. They're definitely old, and they're like legacy at this point. And so you definitely don't want to use them if you can avoid them. Just generally things change over time. Things change over time. That's pretty much the sum of it. Things change over time, and software like OBS just has to adapt to those changes. That's pretty much it.
Do you predict that Microsoft or the major hardware companies will follow in Apple's footsteps and migrate over to the ARM architecture?
I mean, it's unlikely. And I've asked this of people. It's like, do you think that we could ever have like desktop PCs that are ARM? And it's like, no, it's not happening anytime soon, because ARM is pretty much a kind of a locked. I think if I recall what people said, it's like more like that ARM is kind of like made for mobile and power saving, and it's although it's different, it's like it's kind of made for specific scenarios. It's not really, or something like that. I don't know. I'm not a chip expert, but basically, no, it's unlikely. We're gonna be on Intel for a very long time. And besides, the biggest problem is that if you wanted to like migrate to a new type of chip, the old type programs that run on the old type of chip aren't really going to work anymore without like emulation or whatever. So I mean, it's like you can't really do that very easily. And besides, Intel is still too much of a powerhouse. x86 is too much of a powerhouse at this point. It'll probably always be significant, just because of like how known it is, how well known it is.
Right. It's everywhere. Intel has the majority of the enterprise market share. It's going to be around for a long time. I mean, just think of like how prevalent like DDR3 is with how long like DDR4 has already been out. Like it's going to be around.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that we're like, we're in some sort of transitionary phase. I don't think there's going to be any transition, but like I said, I'm not an expert in the hardware field. So I really have no idea. I couldn't really answer that with any authority or anything like that.
As far as going back to the conversation of features, has there been a feature that you were super pumped about to get integrated with OBS, but it doesn't seem like everybody got too excited about, or it almost kind of got forgotten about?
There are probably a bunch that I wanted to implement myself, but that other people weren't enthusiastic about. Yeah, but I've kind of let it. I think over the last few years, I've just kind of let it go at this point, and it's just like, I don't know. It's easy to get burned out on that sort of stuff. So I mean, there are things that I would want to do with the program, but it's the problem is that there's just no time really for me to be able to spend like quality time on the program programming for myself. So it's like it can be it's not going to happen. I mean, I would love to be able to like solve everybody's problems. I even have some old code from stuff I wanted to implement, but it's just like it's probably I just can't do it myself, unfortunately, and a lot of people just disagree with me on that. So I don't know.
What do you find yourself doing the most? What eats up the majority of your time?
Oh God. I mean, reviewing obviously it has to be like. I mean, I have so much to review right now. Dude, I have how many pull requests are on here right now? Check real quick.
I saw the vein popping out of your forehead a little bit there.
Yeah, let me check real quick. There's 173 pull requests, dude.
What? That is a lot.
Those are each like code submissions that people need to be reviewed. I'm having somebody help out with those reviews. So it's not just me. I mean, we have the new full-time guy, Dylan, on the project, who is going to be helping out. But at the same time, it's still like, yeah, it's people just keep submitting them constantly, and I'm pretty sure there was at least like 1 or 2 pull requests a day, and it's just like it's a constant. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that the thing I spend most of my time doing is probably review. The second most is probably just like discussions. The third most is probably just like meetings. You know.
Do you love meetings?
Oh, everybody loves meetings. What are you talking about, man? I could have meetings every day.
I can see a different vein popping out of your head now.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Could you ever picture yourself in an OBS content house where you own this mansion, you've got 10 to 15 of your top developers all living in different rooms, everybody's just fucking wired in, just coding away? Has it ever been like a thought of yours to have like a developer house?
Well, I mean, that goes back to like selling out, because you have to sell out to be able to do that.
Right.
And that's something that I don't really want to do. You know, it's like the only way you would be able to fund like an actual like anything similar to a company is that you would have to sell out. I mean, obviously with any of those other companies, like even in San Francisco, you know, they rely on like investors, and investors want, you know, to make money back on the returns. So, you know, you have to have ways to monetize in order to make money back on your returns, or you have to sell out to like somebody bigger eventually. So, I mean, it's like, we're not on that path. We're on the path to where we do what we want, and we do things the way that we want and not the way that somebody else wants. So the only way for us to be able to do this and still be free is to rely entirely on willing sponsors and donations. And that's like it. You know, it's like sponsors who don't put us in a position to where we're obligated to like fulfill something. You know, it's like, so it's one of those catch-22s, like I was saying earlier. It's like we're not really wanting to sell out, and if we ever did, it would have to be a ridiculous amount for it to be justified, you know, because you're selling out your users at the point. I mean, you would have to sell out your users to be able to do something like that, and that's something that we're just not really willing to do. So we're kind of just trying to like do the best we can with what we have and with time allotment that everybody is willing to throw into it, including myself. And it's just like, that's all we can really do right now, you know. And I think it's worked out great so far, relatively great. It's slow. It can be slow, but it's I still feel really confident about it. You know, because we've been able to do so much, you know, like version 27, it was just a ridiculous update.
Massive, absolutely massive. And I know that you're in the thick of it, right? And I think that, like, I would always go as far to say that I think slow is, I mean, and just kind of I don't think it's slow at all, because when I'm looking at the streaming industry as a whole, where we started and where we're at now, like, I still say that streaming is still the Wild West of the internet. There is so much like random, off the cuff, ungovernmented bits of like, there's so much shit that just isn't under any control. Everything's random, and we're all just kind of like going off the cuff. And to look at where OBS started, you said 2010 was OBS's first year?
No, 2012.
2012. Okay. So coming up on a decade of OBS. And just to think of where it started and the possibilities that are baked into it now. Like, I'm sure to you, you're in it every single day. And you're like, man, I've got 170 pull requests that are all just waiting. But looking at it from the outside, it's just like, holy shit, so much has changed. And there, of course, there's still a lot of room to grow. If you're thinking about, I want to be able to take the entire production studio of a TV station and I want to bake it into one piece of software that anybody can run. Yeah, there's some room to grow. But I think in the grand scheme of things, you guys have done a spectacular job. And anybody who says otherwise, I will fucking fight them.
Well, I mean, let's be real here. You're a little bit biased. Come on.
I will admit there's a little bias.
I mean,
there.
we're both a little bit biased. I mean, we have to be real here. So, I mean, we're not getting the full picture here. I mean, there's going to be people out there who like fucking hate us. Come on, let's be real.
Okay,
that's okay too, and that's okay. I don't mind that.
I think about that, and there's parts of me that think, okay, somebody did come by and try and do it better. And it was like, good valiant effort, but still nobody has come by and done it better, which means like that tells me so many different things.
Well, no, it's not really that. It's not really that. It's not that somebody hasn't come by and done it better. It's complicated because I mean, when you're like, it's kind of a discussion in itself, but I mean, it's like when you're other than XSplit was pretty much the first, like to the streaming industry and stuff like that. So other than XSplit, we were the first open source software.
Okay.
So when you're the first, when you're one of the first, you have such a head start. So we had such a head start, OBS gained like its initial fame and things like that. We got the contributors, so it was probably it's like look at the big streamers, for example. The biggest streamers are the ones who have been doing the longest, right? Like right. You can name almost any one of them, and it's just like the reason why they're so popular is just because they were, among the first to have started during the early Justin TV days, or even before in some cases. And it's like, so that's basically part of it. It's you can't really underestimate the amount of luck that, and timing, luck. So in our case, I would definitely say it was a lot of luck, a lot of timing, and a lot of work, and put all those things together, and it just made something greater than the whole of those things together. And that's pretty much it. I can't say definitively that if someone had come before us that they would not have necessarily been able to do that, what you were proposing, like steal that thunder or whatever. It's like it just comes down to timing, luck, and a lot of hard work. So you can't underestimate the timing and the luck there, in my opinion.
And I think to your point, I'm overestimating in a lot of different aspects as well. But I think the community that you guys have, the team that you guys have, the dedication, the heart and the passion of the people that help commit to OBS is such a massive driving force, in my opinion. And it's just like when I boot up OBS, there is never any negative thoughts. Like I always just feel like this is the life and the blood of my content. I use it for so many different things. It's actually funny that I have two different instances of OBS running. I have OBS on my streaming PC that's doing the streaming, but then I also use NDI to send your cam from my second streaming PC monitor over to, and then I have OBS running on my gaming PC receiving the NDI. And just that in itself, being able to just take a piece of software from a different computer and view it on this one during the podcast makes a monumental difference to this show. And I know I'm not alone. I know I'm biased, but I know I'm not alone when I think of what OBS has done, like for my personal life on top of content creation life.
No, I mean you're not wrong. I mean, I'm a little bit biased. Just want to have this disclaimer. I'm a little bit biased because I love my program and I love all my people. But I mean, it's like I and this might sound a little bit like I'm not sure how much of my own ego is going on to this when I say this, but I'm really thankful that I was lucky enough to be the original author of it, just because it's like it's a lot. It could have been, just imagine the other sort of people that could have been in my situation. And it's like some people, have families to feed. They don't have the luxury of being able to, reject like the sort of offers that I got, to sell the program. They might have done that.
Absolutely.
I was tempted myself at some points, early on. And it's just like, or some people may not have been as sympathetic, to their contributors or to the users or to the or to even the viewers. They just might not have given a fuck about anything, about anyone. And they might have just been complete dicks or something. They might have run it into the ground or something. And it's like, for me, it's like, for me personally, I do feel like, there's a lot of heart in the whole thing, because it's like, I didn't want to sell out. I didn't want to put I feel like I'm putting the users and everybody first. And that's something that I've been pretty big about ever since I started the program, and
it shows.
So yeah,
it shows.
Well, I mean, I've seen some other open source projects, and sometimes the authors can be kind of blunt with people and sometimes very hurtful. And it's not something that I really agree with in my personal philosophy. I think it's very important that everybody try to work together. It's actually been kind of a detriment at times, because I've tried to make people work together that just could never even work together.
Yeah.
And I've kind of, at times, I have occasionally like hurt the program a little bit, because I've tried so hard to make people work together, but there's just some people who you just can't help.
Yep.
You try your best, to make everybody understand each other's point of view. You give them like all these chances, it's like, okay, well, maybe I'm doing something wrong, it's like, and sometimes it's just like they're just not very good people sometimes, and it can be hard. It can be really hard. And so yeah, and I've kind of put myself in situations to where it's like I've been too nice to in a lot of situations to different parties. It's negatively affected the program on occasion. Like I know that at least one or two contributors, this was a long time ago, but one or two contributors probably left just because I was trying so hard to make everybody work together and to incorporate another guy's point of view, or try to work together. It was like there were two different plugins, and two different people were trying to make the same plugins, and I was like, okay, we'll try to. And I tried to make them work together, and it just didn't work out, And I've had people go on occasion just because I've been too nice to people, And it's just like it's hard, because I want everybody to work together. I've never really worked with people before OBS that much, so I didn't really have the experience at the time to really know how to make the decisive decision there. And so
I think if
I don't know.
anybody was to read a review of working at OBS on Glassdoor, they would probably go, person was too nice. Person tried to get two people to work together and create a great. I don't think anybody would bat an eye to that sort of a review.
No, it was. It would be more like in that particular situation I was showing. If there were like a Glassdoor review, it's like the leader is too indecisive. It's like, or something like that. It would be probably something like that. It's like, the leader doesn't know what he's doing, or something like that. It'd be something funny like that. But I mean, it's like it can be pretty tough. It can be pretty tough. I'm not sure if I'm a good leader because I'm just can be a little bit too indecisive at times, and sometimes that can make things move very, very slow, especially with big decisions.
Sure.
Big decisions are tough.
And with that said, nobody will ever know the weight that is on your shoulders. Like, everybody can talk about making those decisions. By the way, my Amazon device announced that there was a severe or extreme thunderstorm warning. So if all of a sudden this call ends, it was Mother Nature. But nobody can understand the weight that you're under. And I think that you've done, again, from my biased perspective, you've done a fantastic job. Was managing people, did you know that you were getting into that when you were building what you were building? Did you know that there was a possibility that was going to be part of the end game?
I mean, not at the beginning. At the beginning, I didn't know what on earth I was getting into, dude. It was I never thought that it would become quite this big, It's just
Do you remember what month OBS came out in 2012?
Yeah, it was August. It was August 20th, 21st or something like that. It was sometime late August.
Okay.
So totally
not only is August my birthday month, which makes me feel special, but I started streaming in April of 2013, which means that I started streaming using OBS Classic like within the year of it coming out, which I've never thought about before, and it is blowing my fucking mind.
Wow, you use Classic? That's crazy.
I use Classic way
You're like
longer.
Old time user, dude.
Yeah, I actually
really old time user.
I can't remember what there was a specific reason why I continued to use Classic over Studio when Studio first came out.
I mean, there were we had it took us a really long time to get back to feature parity because people were contributing to Classic, and they contributed a lot of cool features, and it was to be fair, it was a lot easier to.
I remember what it was.
What was it?
It was hotkey game capture, being able to hit a hotkey because that was my fix for games that wouldn't capture, was like doing the hotkey to restart my GPU and then doing the hotkey to capture the gameplay. And I was like, I'm going to continue using Classic until they fucking tell me I can't anymore.
Yeah. There were a lot of people like that at first, and we didn't mind it. Yeah, actually, we actually tried to transition as softly as possible. We didn't want to force. I was. That's just like my personal philosophy. I never want to like rock the boat or anything like that. I never want to like hurt people or anything like that. I just want to make sure that everybody's comfortable and that it's like, okay, we'll just make Classic available until we fix the issues. It's like. So we tried our best, and we had like this big list of like all the features that we had in Classic originally, and it's like we had to go through every single one of them until we like redid it because we completely rewrote the program. So we had to like go through every single one of those features, and we had to make every single one of those features work in a multi-platform situation. So basically on Windows, Linux, and Mac, and it was pretty tough. And I had completely changed the way that, code was written for the program because I redesigned everything, so it was pretty tough. It took a long time. I think it took like at least like 2 years. Like I think around 2015, we probably reached feature parity with the classic version. But the reason why classic was easier to write for was just because it was Windows. So everything,
Right.
yeah, you didn't have to think about like the other operating systems. So you could just like anybody could contribute code, and it would be like done. And, you know, you wouldn't have to worry about like, oh, does it work on Linux? Does it work on Mac? You know, it'd just be like, if it works, it works, and that's it. You know, and it's like you don't have to have like significant testing or anything like that. So when you're focusing on a single operating system, it just makes things so much easier because you know you don't have to like what's that word, abstract things out, you know, because whenever you work in a multi-platform environment, you have to have these like abstractions, you know, and it makes code like bigger and a little bit more complicated than you'd like. Whereas if you're just working on like Windows, you can just like call the Windows functions directly without even worrying. And it's just kind of like easy. Yeah.
Was multi-platform the main motivating force behind rewriting it to move off of classic?
Yeah. It was to be multi-platform. That, and I mean, I just wanted to rewrite it because we had so many problems, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to rewrite this.
Really?
Yeah. We had a lot of problems, and I'm big on backward compatibility usually. So if I implement a system, I want to make sure that system works pretty much forever, and that we never like needed to like deprecate something. So I want to make sure that if somebody like implements a custom plugin or something like that, that plugin will work for the existence of the program. You know, I kind of have the same philosophy that Microsoft does about Windows. It's like deprecating stuff takes a like 20 years, you know, sort of thing. So, yeah, because I really like that sort of thing, because it makes it programming on Windows very much less stressful than programming on Mac, for example, or you know. So yeah, that's
What percentage of your contributors, if you had to split it up between Windows, Mac, and Linux, do you think you could say like what percentage of people commit towards Windows, Linux, and Mac?
Are you talking about the contributors or the users?
Contributors.
Oh, contributors. We have like, I'd say there's like only about one or two people who are really focusing on the Mac stuff.
Wow.
I'd say that there's like, yeah, unfortunately, it can be kind of low with the Mac. Mac is kind of an unfortunate situation, but it's still somehow managing. You know, fortunately, all the captures that we use are still working fine, and Apple still hasn't deprecated or hasn't completely removed OpenGL, so we haven't been like in a really bad situation yet. So it's like, yeah, Mac currently is in kind of low maintenance. Unfortunately, I kind of wish it had more maintenance, more people working on it. But we do have Mac kind of churning a little bit more than you might expect. But Linux is a little bit bigger.
I would imagine that, yeah.
Yeah, because there's always like a whole bunch of Linux users, and they're almost always programmers. Let's be real, because anybody who uses Linux is probably going to be a programmer or something like that. And so we have plenty. I feel like we have plenty of Linux contributors, like at least around 5 or 6 that I can think of off the top of my head, and then everybody else is probably focusing on Windows, just because you know Windows. So
I love my Apple products, but I don't think anybody in their right mind is going, I want to get into streaming. I'm going to buy a MacBook, or I'm going to buy an iMac or a Mac Mini. It's just, there's no reason for it.
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, Mac has its own problems. Mac OS, you know, you can't even the biggest detriment to streaming on Mac, you know, Mac is actually great. You know, they have an amazing display capture. And that display capture is pretty much as performant as the Windows display capture, and that's saying something. But the problem is that they don't implement like a desktop audio capture. So you can't like capture what's going through your speakers, you know, on your system. The only way that you can do that on Mac is by downloading a third-party software, and you have to fake an output device or yeah, you have to have a fake output device or something like that, and you have to make everything go through that fake output device, and then it has to like reroute it through an input device so you can capture it through the input device, and it's a mess.
It's like virtual audio cable on the Mac side, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's like virtual audio cable on the Mac side. But in the Mac's case, the only way to capture desktop audio is you have to have like virtual audio cable, and it's like nobody can do it because Mac users aren't sophisticated users. I mean, no offense to Mac users, but I mean they're generally, they want things to be simple and easy, just like Mac OS itself is.
Yep.
And it's just Mac OS and Apple just don't provide an API to capture, desktop audio. And so they're kind of screwed there. So anytime somebody comes into like the Mac OS support channel, it's always like, how do I capture my speakers?
Yeah.
And it's like, God damn it. And you just think to yourself, God, please let this end.
I love what my Apple products do for me personally and anecdotally, but working in IT, I fucking hate managing Apple products for other people. Obviously, like I know iPhone's like the back of my hand, so helping people with that is totally fine. But trying to integrate Mac operating systems into Windows-based Active Directory environments, or even with Cloud Active Directory, it's an absolute fucking nightmare, and I despise it. And it just, I mean, it's obvious that Apple doesn't care about that market. They don't care at all about being well integrated with other systems, because they've built their own ecosystem. And I will say that that's a downside of the ecosystem, but fuck if I don't love my own personal little ecosystem that I've built.
Yeah, I mean, when you're working with Mac and you're just like using it as like they intend, it's amazing. It's an amazing operating system, and it's just like, it's so slick and so usable, and it's made for almost anybody. I could give it to like my oldest sister. Like she would die without her Mac. I'm telling you. But I mean, yeah, but at the same time, yeah, Apple just is kind of very, very discompassionate about older versions of Mac OS. They're very discompassionate about compatibility with other systems, and it can be very difficult.
Are you excited about Windows 11?
I mean, it was kind of funny. It looks kind of like the Mac bar a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like they're kind of like taking a little bit from Apple there, I have to say.
I wonder, it looks like they're taking from it visually, right? I don't know. Like,
I mean, user experience and user interface, it just changed. It's just in such flux all the time. We're actually going to update our user interface soon, and with a more modern looking user interface, and so even we're under. Yeah, the new one is great. I love it. But you guys will see it eventually.
When are we going to see it?
Probably version 28.
Shit! Yo, you heard it here
It's pretty
first.
nice. Listen, if I like it, then I'm almost totally positive everybody else will like it. But
Let's go.
Yeah, it'll be nice. It's just like a visual change. It's not like a functional change or anything.
Sometimes that's all you need.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I like want to switch to it full time, but yeah, there's still a few issues with it. But
as far as the design aspect, have you had to hire anybody or like get consulting as far as how it should look, or are you just kind of like going off your gut?
We have like we really. I've been criticized for this by a particular person who works at big big San Francisco companies, but he often tells me that, you know, we need a designer. We need a full-time designer, you know, to like fix up these user experience and user interface issues. But we generally have somebody on the project, at least two people who are pretty good at it, in my humble opinion. And that's why I like the new user interface refresh. It's because it's just like, they made me like it, then, you know, the users have to like it, right?
They fucking better. Your dark mode, I always judge a software development company by their dark mode choice.
It's better than dark mode. I'm not even joking. It's better than dark mode.
Wait. You got my fucking gears turning in my head right now. I'm getting real excited about this.
It's sweet. It just looks so much better. It's just a visual appearance thing, but it definitely looks better. Everybody will see it whenever we manage to fix up the issues. But I mean, it's on the pull request list. Anybody can take a look at it. But,
okay. Yeah, I mean, so when it comes to how OBS looks right now, have you had any professional design consulting on it, or have you just been like, this is how I want it to look?
Well, I mean, if we're talking about like my decisions, I mean, I have my own like personal preferences. I kind of prefer things to be a little bit more compact, and people have argued with me about that, saying that it kind of intimidates users a little bit. But so I've kind of laxed on that a bit.
Show me the data. Show me the data, motherfucker.
No. You see, if we knew, we don't collect telemetry like I was saying earlier. So I mean, it's like we don't really have that data, like on what we don't know, like how users are interacting with the program or anything like that, because we are big on privacy. So we can't really know like if users are having too much trouble with something or not. The only gauge we really have to know whether a user is having trouble or whether a user likes something is when they tell us on social media, or when they come to our support and, you know, they tell us they're having a problem, or that whether they like something or not. You know, that's pretty much it. So
have you ever thought about doing just like a general survey?
Yeah,
like an opt-in survey. Okay.
Yeah, we have. We actually have, but nobody's had time to implement it. So it's like, it's probably never going to happen. Let's be real. It's like somebody has to program that stuff into the program. It's like, okay, hello user, we would like to do an optional survey. Would you like to help us? And it's like, yeah, nobody's going to program that yeah.
I can just imagine the elitists now. You don't have undo redo yet. You're out here coding surveys into your software. What the fuck are you doing over there at the OBS mansion?
Yeah, pretty much. Unfortunately. Yeah. God, people were criticizing us pretty hard for not having undo redo. It was funny.
You know, I think it's one of those things where it wasn't that big of a deal, but once other parties implemented it, it was like, well, now I want it. It's over there and I want it now. And I think I get that to an extent. Like, I guess.
Well, yeah, but it's the undo redo situation was just like so difficult, because the way that you have to implement undo redo is that you have to like implement to do the undo, and then you have to implement code to do the redo. So you have to have like these two sections of code that you have to implement for every single action in the program. So if like you delete something, then you have to like have the undo code, and you have to like store data as like what was deleted, you know, how do you restore it again, you know. And it's like, so I don't think people realize just how difficult like implementing undo redo really was. It was like, I'm almost totally positive it was like countless thousands of lines, dude. It was ridiculous, and there were so many like niche little situations. I'm pretty sure there are still some little niche situations that are having some minor issues. Like I'm pretty sure, like if you go into this is just a minor one that I thought of just now, but for example, if you go into the advanced audio properties that list all the sources and the tracks that they're running on and things like that. Like if you adjust like the panning, the audio panning, like if you hit undo, the audio panning won't update. The little widget won't update when you hit undo, so it'll stay on the old value even though it's technically at the new value. So we were like, yeah, there were just a whole bunch of little niche cases like that we were like, okay, we'll live with this for now because it doesn't affect anything badly. But,
is there a maximum amount of undo steps? Like,
we put in a maximum just because of memory.
Sure.
Because it's like you have to store memory for every action. It's like you have to store like the backup data for like if you delete something, you have to store backup data for that scene, or if you reorder a scene, you have to completely store all the backup data for that scene or something like that. And so yeah, we originally didn't have a limit, so it would just like continually accumulate, but we were like, okay, we should probably have a limit just in case, because some people run on like toasters. Let's be real. So
one monitor toasters.
Yes, so we implemented a limit. So after a certain number of actions, it will start deleting the oldest actions. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Where do you see OBS in 5 years? Are you looking that far ahead, or are things just so crazy to where you kind of can just take care of what's in front of you now? Do you have a vision for where you want it to go or what you want to see OBS do?
Yeah, somebody asked me that once. It's like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And
what's your 5-year plan?
And I was like, yes, exactly. And I was just like, I'll get back to you on that in 5 years. I was like, oh yeah. I'm sorry. I just unfortunately I don't really look that far ahead. I can't. I just can't do it these days. It's we do have like a general plan of like the year and like the next year. The year is a little bit more solid than next year after that is like very kind of like up in the air and like floaty. But I think beyond that, it's just like I don't think we can deal with that. We'll have to cross that bridge when it comes to it. Let's be real.
Did COVID disrupt your plan for the following year? With how much it kind of decimated everybody's expectation of life, of like how things were going to go? Or did you find that with people home, like even though the amount of users, the amount of people downloading OBS multiplied greatly, did you find that it's like, okay, this has changed everything for us? Or it's like, hey, we're all coding from the comfort of our home anyways, and it just hasn't really changed where OBS is going?
I mean, when you're talking about like general work, I mean, it didn't change anything for most of us, because I mean, or at least I personally always worked at home anyway. So, I mean, it's like, that was always pretty much the same for me. But I mean, in terms of like where the project was heading, I think it did definitely change things. I mean, like I said, we implemented the virtual camera feature because people started requesting it big time. It's like, we really need the virtual camera feature because we're doing these meetings and we need to be able to put up these presentations, and it just makes it so much easier if we would have this feature. And so we were under major pressure to implement the virtual camera. So that was like the first thing that we prioritized during the COVID situation. And we got that out of the way, and it's still not perfect, but it ended up being a big feature that we were under pressure for. And I think the number of users that we got out of it, it was a lot of users. It was just so many people started streaming, started using the program, maybe for virtual camera, or just like started recording stuff or whatever it was. Our numbers like at least tripled or something like that. I don't know.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. So it was big. So
I want to say that I think the last time that we had you on the podcast, I want to say that you said you were averaging 1 million downloads a month. Does that sound right?
I mean, we don't track downloads anymore because of the way that we have our downloads on on Fastly, our own CDN. They sponsor us for the downloads.
Gotcha.
So we don't have the numbers anymore, unfortunately. Gotcha. But I'm pretty sure it's pretty big.
Okay, I would imagine
because we generally have we have a general like idea of like how many pings we are getting to our server when we do like an update check, when everybody does like the update check. So we have like a general idea, but I mean it's like and that, like I said, that's how we know that the numbers like tripled. It was just ridiculous. It was absolutely insane.
My last question for you before we get on to the viewer questions, is there anything other than the visual updates that are up and coming? Is there anything that you can give us as far as something you're excited about that you're going to be releasing soon? Any big plugins, any big updates? A little teaser you could give us.
Well, I mean, if it were stuff that I would be really excited about, I'd probably be writing it myself. So fair. I'm not really writing stuff myself at the moment. I'm mostly just like trying to focus on managing the project and reviewing and the seemingly constant amount of meetings that we have. So it's like, I'm not sure if there's anything I'm personally excited for. I mean, I feel like 27 got a lot of the stuff that I was excited for because because of the laptop update was just like such a critical update. That was just like such a critical update because we were so tired. Yeah, it was so tiresome hearing people come in and say they had laptop issues because so many people have laptops these days, and it was so difficult to like have to tell people, hey, you have to change your settings on your laptop to be able to, capture the desktop, and things like that. So it was just like my own personal like things that I'm excited for are like quality of life stuff. Oh my God. Like the laptop thing. It's like being able to just like use display capture without having it go black screen or something like that, just because of the whole adapter issue on laptops. It's just so nice. I love quality of life issues. In fact, if you go into my development channel, it'll just there's like, I'm pretty sure there's a pin there where I just like am like screaming about like quality of life stuff, and it's like how many people does this affect, how many people does this make happy, and that's the sort of stuff that I'm excited for. When everybody is like benefiting from a feature, then I'm excited for it. But when it's like just like a niche feature that some like particular party wants, and I'm like, I wish people wouldn't be spending time on this. I want to see like the things that make everything better for everybody else. I don't know.
If you were able to say, hey, QA, meetings, life obligations, fuck all of you, I'm going to hunker down for 6 months and write something. Like, what is something that you would just right now start sinking your time into because you would love to see it implemented?
I would love to just like have a complete user interface refresh. And I'm not talking about just like the general like visuals. I'm talking about like fix up the status bar, probably fix up the the fact that we have like the big buttons there, and try to like figure out a way to make everything like more slick and to make everything easier to use and just make things nicer in general. Because the program, I feel like the program is generally pretty easy to use, but there's like these rabbit holes you can go down with the program. Like if you right click something, all of a sudden there's like 5 billion options there, and it's like, oh my God.
I love that though.
I love that too. But at the same time, I just want to make sure that like, I feel like we kind of went a little bit overboard with that sometimes, and I kind of want to make the thing that makes me happy the most with the program is when it makes everything easier for all the users. Mm-hmm. I'm just so happy whenever we make features that just make things better for everybody. And that's what I'm excited for. That's why like the laptop thing just made me so happy, and why the little refreshes and things like that, they just make me happy. Even though they're like not like critical features, they're just like quality of life stuff. I love quality of life stuff so much.
Yep.
And if I could just like sit down for 6 months, I would just be like ironing out every single quality of life thing I could. And I would be like, okay, forget everybody else. Forget you guys. You guys, oh, you guys switched to another protocol. Forget you guys.
All right, I lied. I have one more question for you, and it's a selfish question.
What's up?
How difficult would it be to have some sort of pop-up or indicator when a replay buffer successfully works? Like if I were to hit replay buffer, to have like an indicator like, hey, this was captured.
Yeah, didn't we implement that into version 27? I'm pretty sure that in version 27, it shows it on the status bar when your replay is saved.
If that's the truth, I'm going to feel real stupid.
Yeah, you would actually have to. I don't remember if that was. I think so. Yeah,
okay.
On version 27, I'm almost totally positive that if your replay is saved, that it should say it on the status bar. But the problem is that it only says it on the status bar. So you have to like be paying attention to that status bar, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. And that's, I mean, what I do now is I keep the directory open in Windows Explorer. So whenever I hit my button to save a replay buffer, I just look up and see if the number of items in that folder goes up by 1. And if it does, I know that it's saved. So it's second nature for me.
Do you generally have a problem with like replay buffers saving or anything like that?
The only time that I did was when I upped my frame rate from 60 to 120, and then all of a sudden just like replay buffers just weren't. I guess it's more of like a paranoia thing where I want some sort of visual confirmation that it went through, because there was always something that was with shadow play. You got the little indicator that it was saved, and I feel like I have had an issue with hotkeys not going through. Like, so I have a hotkey on my Stream Deck, and I have a hotkey on one of my macro boards, which is just a 16 key keyboard. And I don't know if it's because I don't run the Stream Deck app in admin, or if I don't run OBS in admin, but sometimes the Stream Deck is really weird about sending hotkeys through where it needs to go. So it could be a multitude of things, but if I hit a button and there's no indication, I'm like, I don't know if I save my memory or not.
No, that's a perfectly valid thing. Yeah, I checked, and I think we do. I'm not sure if it covers replay buffers. I'm almost totally positive it does. So you might want to check that if you're currently using version 27. That would be worth checking to see if it like shows up on the status bar. But it should show up on the status bar. As for like the Elgato Stream Deck, technically they use the API directly because they have a plugin, right? So they use the plugin, and then if you like update the stream buffer, they're not actually sending hotkeys. They're actually calling like our API directly. So they technically should work like fine. It shouldn't be like a hotkey issue or an admin thing issue.
Okay.
With that particular device. For hotkeys, yeah, we still need to fix that. The fact that if you run OBS like in non-admin, and then you're like inside of a program that is running admin, like for example, let's say you start up OBS and it's not in admin mode, right? And then you start up a game, and that for whatever reason that game might be running in admin, all of a sudden your hotkeys stop working because we can't capture hotkeys. When we're not running an admin, we can't capture hotkeys in something that is running admin just due to the security level. So
okay.
Yeah, so that's why you have to sometimes run OBS in admin. But usually the way, and when I wrote the hotkey system, I didn't realize that at the time, but realize this at the time, but the way that you're normally supposed to write a hotkey handler or hotkey detector is that you have a service, right? So you have a service that runs basically always in admin, And then you can run OBS in whatever mode. And then that service will, tell OBS that, hey, you're running, or this hotkey was hit, And usually that's how hotkeys are implemented. But we didn't do it with our program. We basically got stuck with that whole admin and non-admin situation. And eventually we'll do something about it. But yeah, that's another one of those issues that has been an issue for quite a long time. Very, very annoying.
Well, if you ever decide like, hey, I wonder if there's a like another visual indicator that we could add in OBS, because I always thought like I loved how you have the red and green indicator for when you're live. So you like even if you're not looking, you could possibly see the indicator if you start dropping frames. If there was
that since Classic, I'm really happy about that one.
And
that was something I
Another reason why I used Classic a lot in the beginning was because of that. I think there was another
it took a while.
There was a checkbox for enabling anti-cheat in regards to the game capture.
Yeah, but we first what happened was that we stopped First what happened was that we didn't have the anti-cheat compatibility, because I talked with the anti-cheat people and they were like, you're injecting your DLL wrong. You should inject it using this other method. So I implemented that other method. And at first I didn't use that one by default because it was like, I wasn't sure if it would work properly with everybody. So I had to like transition to make it default at some point. So now it's just default and it should always work with everything. And so
now there's no problem.
Yeah, I should just be able to completely remove that checkbox. That checkbox shouldn't even be there. Some of those options in the program, are like legacy options from way back in the day. Like that one, for example. That's a good example. That option probably doesn't even need to be there anymore. I'm not sure why anybody would ever like uncheck that option anymore, because I've never heard of an issue where somebody's needed to do that. Yeah.
The only reason I needed it back then was to stream H1Z1. There was always just like one random game that I had to like flick things on and off.
Yeah, back in the day, I'm pretty sure back in the day it was off by default. The anti-cheat compatibility mode is what you're talking about. That was off by default back in the day. And we eventually transitioned to make it default. So
interesting.
Yeah. So no one should ever need to uncheck that button anymore, or that checkbox anymore.
OBS Classic still has a place in my heart.
I mean, that's a little bit mine too. I mean, it was fun times.
It's a piece of you, right?
It was jank. It was very janky.
We love jank. Okay.
There still is, but there's plenty of jank in the new one.
Right.
Come on, let's be real.
Right. All right, dude, I'm going to hop over into the chat Q&A. So these are questions that we have grabbed from chat during the podcast. So the first one is from CM, excuse me. What's a tool? I don't think you know this guy.
I don't know if I know him.
What's a cool fact you've learned in the past year? Doesn't have to be programming related.
A cool fact?
Yeah.
And
any stat, like a statistic, that anything you
about
put your
the program?
No, it doesn't have to be programming related.
Or no, about OBS itself, or
I think it's about anything. What's a cool fact you've learned in the past year? Open ended.
I'm not sure if I can really think of anything off the top of my head. Actually,
is there anything you've learned recently that just made you go, "What the fuck"? Like any stat that blew your mind or any realization?
Nothing that wouldn't be political.
You know, the most recent stat that I learned was that 40% of OBS users had a single PC or a single monitor setup back in 2013, 2014. I don't know when you said, but
yeah, I can't even. I don't even know how to answer that question. I have no idea.
That's all right. We'll spank Wizard later for that one. But hey, he's going to make up for it with the second question. What games are you currently really enjoying?
Questions?
Yeah, he went off.
He's cheating. He's depriving everybody else of their questions. All right. What games did I play? Let me open my Steam library real quick. I don't really play that many games these days, surprisingly, even though I was like so big on games. I mean, maybe let's see, what game that I really enjoyed? I feel like I play mostly roguelikes these days. So I really have been enjoying Spelunky 2, Binding of Isaac, the recent DLC that came out. Binding of Isaac was pretty pog. What else?
You say pretty pog?
Yeah, poggers, dude. I'm not okay, not poggers. I'm just pog. Okay, just pog. But I mean, it's like, okay, so I played a little bit of Amnesia Rebirth, which was pretty good actually. I really liked Amnesia Rebirth. What else did I do?
You played Risk of Rain? Risk of Rain 2?
I love Risk of Rain 2. Risk of Rain 2 is great, dude. I love Risk of Rain. Yeah, what else? Another roguelike that I really enjoy that's kind of like a sleeper hit, in my humble opinion, is World of Horror. Oh my god, I love that game. I don't have that many hours on it, but it's so good. I love that game. It's so creepy and like it's just so good. You know, it's like the developers just did such a great job on that game. And it's like you can just like
interesting.
Yeah, you can just start a game and it doesn't really last that long, but it's just like this little adventure and it's kind of a roguelike, but it's much more unforgiving.
Okay.
But it's just so creepy and it has like the best music and like I just love that game so much. I can't talk about that game enough.
I'm gonna post this in chat in case there's anybody who wants to look at the Steam store, but that is not the game that I expected to see when I looked it up. Very, very interesting looking.
Yeah, that's an awesome game. I love that game. I'm not sure if I've been playing like anything else. I tried to get back into World of Warcraft at some point, but I was just like, I got to like level 30 on a warrior on classic, and I was just like, yeah, I'm done.
All done. Yeah.
I can't do it anymore. It's just too much. It's too much. It's good. It's good. It's actually so nice. It was so nice being able to go in like World of Warcraft and like talking like Dark Shore or Barons chat and just like like talk shit with people, but it's just like
just turn on the bubble.
It's just so much fun. You know, people used to like socialize so much more in classic and then classic days, but these days like everybody is just like trying to like do the min-max thing, and it's just like, come on, dude. It's like nobody socializes in retail. Wow, it kind of bothers me a little bit, but I don't know.
I have to say that even though 50% of my VoIP is shit talking kids in COD, it is something that I enjoy about playing COD online, is that like the beginning of every round, the middle of every round, and the end of every round is usually somebody talking, and there's just like that constant rotating interaction with people. And it's just something that I enjoy, and I'm very excited for the next Battlefield that is going to be coming out, but I know that it's going to be missing that like VoIP factor because people don't VoIP in Battlefield games. It's just very rare.
Well, I mean, the game, at least, yeah, it looks like a really good game. It's not my sort of game personally, but it looks really nice.
I am excited. I'm very excited.
Yeah. Other than that, I mean, I don't really play games these days.
Me either. It's been probably 2 or 3 weeks since I've played a video game, ever since I kind of pivoted my content towards this kind of stuff and more just chatting.
Yeah, if I weren't so busy, I'd probably be playing video games nonstop. But the game I really want to play is I really want to finish my Under Rail run. That would be so much fun.
Okay.
Under Rail is a CRPG, like an old fashioned kind of like Fallout style game. And it's just such a
Oh,
good game, such a good game. But
Under
I just
Rail.
kind of requires you to get like into like the mood for it though. It just kind of sucks.
And your expectations of video games kind of changes as you get older, and what you will allow yourself to be sucked into also changes.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's it's fun. It's fun. I'll eventually play them. Eventually.
One day.
One day.
Next question from Trey Pop. Do you think plugins are of the past, or are there still innovative plugins coming out for OBS?
There are always plugins that people love. There's some some people use OBS simply because of the public plugin system. Let's be real. I mean, some people, the whole Elgato like Stream Deck it's a plugin. It's a plugin they use to interact with their device. So
Audio
VSTs. Yeah, audio. Well, I mean, VSTs aren't really plugins. They're more like we have VST support. But we're talking about like general plugins. I mean, there are a whole bunch of plugins that everybody loves. So yeah, I mean, look at like WebSockets or what was the other one? WebSockets or what was the other one that Palacus made? Palacus has two really popular plugins. Oh yeah, NDI WebSockets. You're using NDI right now, so I mean, it's like, of course, yeah, plugins are essential.
Yep.
People being able to like extend what the program can do beyond its like original, intention, is like it's such a useful thing, even if, can't really support all the plugins, unfortunately. It's like
right.
It's like sometimes having plugins, just makes the program crashier and stuff, and that's why it's like I kind of wish that people didn't use plugins sometimes, but at the same time, it's like I don't want to stop people from using plugins because these plugins are so awesome. I love plugins. So yeah, I'd say that they're always going to be there. It's like past, present, and future, pretty much.
Oh yeah. Next question from Rock and Roll Geek. Will we ever see a scene thumbnail view like other switching software or hardware? Kind of hope this wasn't far behind when multi-view was added, which was huge. Thank you. Great work.
The problem with having like, I know what you're talking about, and I was originally thinking about doing that a long time ago, but it's kind of a performance detriment to do that, because I mean, you have to like, the only way to be able to see certain types of sources is if they're like being shown, and the only time that they'll activate is if they're being shown. So if they're being shown, then it's kind of like a little bit of a performance drain. So you have to kind of make the judgment. It's like, do I reduce the frame rate of all these previews, or do I just like not have previews at all? And then the nice thing about not having a preview is that it just makes the code much more simple. So I don't know. It's like, if you want to view the preview, I would say like turn on studio mode real quick and just like check the preview or something like that. But if you've otherwise, it should be okay. If you really want to be able to view something, maybe the studio, or not studio, maybe the multi-view, as you mentioned, might be good. But yeah, that would be a lot of work to do anyway. So I don't see that ever happening at least in the near term or even the midterm.
Does turning on studio mode kind of automatically start hogging more resources just to make that available?
A little bit. Just a tiny bit. Studio mode in general is fine, as just like you have to have like two separate previews for what's visible and what's not visible. So it's like you do have to use some extra resources for the one that's not visible, and you do have to render a second scene. So it does cost a little bit, just a little bit though.
Okay. Second to last question. What OS do you use on your computer? From Theodoros.
I have multiple computers. I have a MacBook, and I have my primary computer is obviously going to be Windows, because I mean that's where I play my video games. If I did not have video games, or general Windows programs that I used frequently, I would be using Linux. 100%. I would be using Linux 100% of the time. Even though it doesn't have access to a good debugger, I would be using Linux, because it's just so much more superior in terms of a development environment, in terms of like just like so many things in general. Linux is just a much better operating system, in my humble opinion. It's definitely the best. It's just the only problem with Linux is just that like it's so decentralized, so you get all those different uh distros, and you know you have to deal with all the individual issues with each distro, and it's like nobody's working, so many people just aren't working together in Linux environments, and it's been kind of frustrating. So
Oh, absolutely.
and the device drivers, oh god, I freaking hate working with device drivers on Linux so much. I hate that. Like if you have like some special Wi-Fi device, it might not be supported by some distro you're using, or you might have to download a special package for it, and that package might not update at regular intervals, or you know, especially happens for like a freaking um graphics devices. Like oh my god, I've had like Linux, I've had my Linux distros just go bad occasionally, just because of I've tried to use proprietary graphics drivers, and it's like the only way you're really able to do it is if you get a distro that's like dedicated to like supporting like the proprietary ones, like Ubuntu or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it's like so you basically have to use Ubuntu if you want to use like proprietary drivers or something like that. If you use Fedora, then you know you're stuck on the Mesa drivers or whatever, and it's like it sucks, and because they're just not as performant. So it's like, what do you do there? I don't know.
Do you
But I
do you
mean,
have a particular distro that you would see being the Windows 10 of Linux?
I mean, I would love to use Fedora as my primary, if not for like the drivers and like the whole proprietary versus open source issue that they have. But I mean, otherwise, I guess it's just going to be Ubuntu. I mean, I'm not going to say they're like comparable to like Windows, because Windows just has like, in terms of a development environment, Windows just has like so many more like internal API features that Linux is much more jank on. Like for example, the way that we share like textures on Windows, and the way that we're able to capture like so efficiently on Windows, is much more difficult to do on Linux, and that just makes it a lot less fun to deal with Linux sometimes. And a lot of stuff is, a lot of APIs are just so difficult and not very fun to deal with on Linux. But then there
Okay.
are some things that are better, you know. So it's like there are just pros and cons, and it's mostly unfortunately cons in that case. But I would prefer Linux if I could, just because of the development environment, and the packages, and everything just makes so much more sense. And I just like everything about it, just about. So
Okay.
I don't know, but generally I just use Windows, and on my downstairs computer I have Linux. So
Gotcha. All right, final question. Would OBS consider adding multicam recording, allowing the user to record separate sources to different files, i.e. gameplay in one file and FaceTime in another?
yes, this is, you know, one of our very popular requested features that we have for the main program. And you know, other people have, or other organizations have implemented their own means of doing that. And the reason why I haven't is because I don't really trust very many. I could probably only trust myself and maybe two other people to be able to do that. So that's why we haven't done it yet. It's just because those people, including myself, have not volunteered to do it. And I want to make sure that if it's done like spectacularly right, because performance is the most important key for me. And it's not just performance, but it's also like system impact. System impact is extremely important. So if I implement something, I want to make sure that it's not like going to impact anything else that you're running on your system while you're running OBS. So that's it's just a combination of not having enough skilled developers, not having enough developers with the experience required to make that specific type of feature, combined with the fact that that I forgot where I was going with that, but it's basically that. It's basically that there's just not enough developers with the required experience for that particular feature, and I'm just very, very picky about implementing those features right. If they're going to be implemented, if I'm going to implement a feature like that, it has to be done like perfect, in my humble opinion. I'm just a little bit too picky. I cannot let like somebody who doesn't have the experience implement something like that, because it's just like those systems are too intricate and too detailed, and you make one mistake and everything will fall apart. I'm not even joking. And
right?
it's like, yeah.
I think I speak for everyone when I say we love that you are that picky when it comes to that stuff. Not only from like a personal perspective, but there are people who rely on OBS working for their careers. So the fact that you're not just throwing every plugin, every commit at it just to see what works. Like, hey, good luck if it crashes your shit. Not our problem. I'm sure there's plenty of people that appreciate that.
Yeah, well, to be fair, my life would be absolutely terrible if I just allowed anything, because then I'd be dealing with people like complaining about problems 24/7. So,
right.
Yeah.
We don't want that either. Well, my dude, and just like that, another 2-hour podcast, another 2-hour plus podcast. Yeah. 2.5 hours.
Really? Oh my God. I lost sense of my time there.
Good. Like I said,
completely lost sense of my time there.
Conversation mogul. Like you're a natural at this. Do you believe me now?
I'm skeptical, but maybe I don't know. That was that just went by like that pretty much. That was crazy.
That tells me I did a good job. That tells me that you were comfortable. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming back here and gracing us with your presence. I know some of the questions are probably ones that you get every goddamn day, and so you being willing to come here and answer them again and just bless us with the conversation and the knowledge that you have. I appreciate it, and I know the people that are listening appreciate it too.
Well, I'm always happy to be here, and I don't know. You're always doing great stuff, in my humble opinion. So
thank you. Can you believe it's been 3 years since you've been on this again?
Yeah, I can, unfortunately, because it's just like there's just always so many things going on, and everything's always so busy. It's just like it's a constant at this point.
Well, I hope that even though this probably felt like a little bit of work, that you were able to just kind of like chill out, slow down a little bit, just have some convo, and hopefully you get a little bit more of that time in the near future for yourself as well.
Yeah, it was nice, and it's I suppose our timing is kind of good because my voice is starting to die for some reason.
Oh yeah, when's the last time you talked for 2.5 hours straight?
I don't talk to many people. That's true. I mean, I'm always pretty much at home. I almost never talk. I don't think my vocal cords get much practice.
Oh man, I think mine's starting to go too. All right, we gotta get out of here. This is your opportunity to kind of like sell out a little bit. Is there anything that you want to say? Hey, this is coming up. We're planning this. We got this going. Is there anything you want to shout out? I know you don't care or kind of participate in social media too much.
I don't have any. Everybody knows. Hopefully everybody knows the website and everything, like obsproject.com, and it's like, I don't know anything other than that. It's just like, yeah, that's pretty that's pretty much it. It's like yeah.
Word. All right. If you guys want to check out any of the links that are in chat, OBS Project on Twitter. I think the website is obsproject.com. Yep, obsproject.com. It used to be a .org, didn't it?
No.
Never?
Nope. Never was org. You definitely, somebody must be misremembering there, but yeah.
You know what? I think I am, because remember when I reached out and I was like, hey, are you guys registered as a 503c regarding like donations and tips? And you're like, nope, it's not us. We're not registered that way. And that was when we had done the fundraiser for OBS, and again, that was like fucking 3 or 4 years ago now. Absolutely insane.
Crazy. That's crazy.
That's probably me just getting mixed up. It's .com, everybody. obsproject.com, OBS Project on Twitter, and Wizard of OBS, because it is OBS, the OBS Project. You've all been saying it wrong. None of you are going to admit it, but you've been saying it wrong this entire fucking time. My dude, again, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's an absolute pleasure.
Well, it's a pleasure to be with you.
Thanks, man. All right. We're getting out of here, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out to the podcast. We'll be back next week for episode 157 for Middle Age Stream and a special guest. So we'll see you all later. Say goodbye.
Yeah, everybody.